With that, welcome everybody. Appreciate you making the time to be here today for the Energy Finance Working Group meeting. I think what we're going to do is try to we'll do a roll call and get people present, and then have a chance to be able to walk through the documents that we have for the committee. And so maybe with that, we'll turn it over to Declan and he can call the roll.
Chair Acom.
Present.
Acom present. Chair Frentz.
Here.
Frentz present. Chair Swedzinski.
Here.
Swedzinski present. Rep. Igo. Igo present. Representative Kraft.
Here.
Kraft present. Senator Matthews.
Matthews here.
Matthews present. Representative Sexton. Senator Zhang.
And Representative Sexton is here. I know he didn't respond, but it looked like he tried to unmute. Maybe try again.
Representative Sexton. Sexton present.
Great. It looks like everybody's here. So thank you again for taking the time on Sunday. I know finding a time that worked for all of the working group members was a challenge. And so given, people being all over the state and having other requirements in their life, I really appreciate you finding some time to do this today and that we could manage it by doing it remotely. So with that, I think the important information today is going to come from our nonpartisan staff. And so I'm going to turn it over to them to walk through some of the documents. Not sure who's starting.
We could start with Mr. Mueller from Senate Fiscal, as it is a Senate file, if you're okay with that, Dan?
Absolutely.
Yes, I am.
Great.
Yes,
Thank you.
I'll be sharing a spreadsheet, and let me just get to that quickly. There. Can everyone see the spreadsheet?
Yep.
Now
Okay.
we can.
So the spreadsheet shows the House, the first two set of columns are the House budget. The second two set are the Senate budget that originally came out of the House and Senate during the regular session. And then the last two set of columns here are the special session energy budget. I'll just say going in, the House was at base budget on the energy budget. So they were, there was no increases or decreases to the budget. The Senate budget largely was mirroring the governor's budget going in and had a $2 million per year general fund reduction compared to the base. And then the special session budget that the target was given to this work group was the same as what the governor's budget and the Senate budget was, which is a negative $4 million fiscal year 26-27 general fund reduction, and then also a $4 million reduction in the tails. So on the spreadsheet, I'm just going to go through the change items. Like I said, it's a mostly base budget bill for the special session, especially for the Department of Commerce. The first change item is here on line 40. In Article 4 of the bill, there is a securitization proposal that was in the Senate bill. And this is a proposal that we'll go through later in the policy area, but it does carry a cost of $304,000 per year to the Department of Commerce. But I will note that these costs only happen if they ever have to actually use the bonding process. So, and this is being run through the Special Revenue Fund. We're showing a cost here for it, but that's only if they actually ever have to use the bonding program. If there's no emergency that the bonds are not used, there will be no cost. So if those are used, it's $304,000 per year. And again, that's run through the Special Revenue Fund. And those costs would be assessed back through the natural gas utilities. The next change item is on line 52, and this is the operating adjustment for the Petroleum Tank Release Compensation Board. It's a $500,000 per year operating increase that comes from the Petro Fund. So that ends up being $1 million for each biennium, and it's ongoing. The next item, change items, I'll jump down to the Public Utilities Commission. These start on line 91. The first one is an operating adjustment. These are operating adjustments that are contained in numerous agencies that came from the governor's budget. It's $714,000 the biennium, and then $150,000 in the tails. And these first items here, 90 from the fund. Assessed back fund, so they end up being a net cost neutral bottom line of the general fund. The second item is a technology, $20,000 per year, and that's ongoing. That was in the governor's budget. The next line item is tribal liaison. Was for one FTE, $170,000 per year. That was also in the governor's budget. And then the natural gas utility planning and coordination, that's $553,000 per year ongoing, and that was also in the governor's budget. The last item here is the PUC costs that are tied to the securitization provisions in Article 4 of the bill. That would be $214,000 per year. And again, those costs only happen if there is actually bonding happening in the bill, or if there actually is a bonding event that happens. The next item is on the next page of the spreadsheet, and this is where the savings come versus the general fund. The Senate is tracking this as a transfer now. There's a $2 million savings per year on the weatherization program. The base amount was $2.199 million per year, and the Senate and the governor had a $2 million per year savings to this transfer, and this for the weatherization program. So that saves $4 million for each biennium versus the general fund. The last items here on the spreadsheet, I'll just note the lines here starting on 117 through 126 are just the revenues that are tied to the assessments, to PUC and to the one assessment at the Department of Commerce. And then I'll jump down to the bottom net general fund, showing that this proposal does save $4 million per biennium versus the base. So that is it for Article 1 in the first part of the spreadsheet. I'll jump next to the renewable development account. And right here, I'm just showing the fiscal year 26-27 changes in the bill. The House was at base. They had no new appropriations from the RDA. There was a couple of appropriations that were part of the base budget. The Senate was spending an additional $20 million out of the RDA for mostly in fiscal year 26. The special session agreement here goes back to the base budget that was being carried in the governor's proposal and in the House proposal. So the only appropriations that are coming out of the RDA were part of the base budget, which includes the $100,000 per year for the Made in Minnesota, and then this $400,000 to the University of St. Thomas microgrid was part of the base budget. There are two other appropriations from the RDA. The one other one goes to the State Building and Energy Revolving Loan Fund. That's for $92,000 per year. Again, that was part of the base budget. The only other item that is in Article 2 dealing with the RDA, there are two appropriation extensions that are now in the bill. And I'll note that that's at the bottom of the spreadsheet here. The first one is extending the fiscal year 24 appropriation to the University of St. Thomas microgrid, and that would extend that out to June 30th, 2027. And the other one is a extension of a fiscal year 24 appropriation to the National Sports Center dealing with a solar project for the new roof there. And that extends that appropriation also to June 30th, 2027. So that is it for the spreadsheet. If there are any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Ms. Severson to go through the policy.
Why don't we go ahead and hear from Ms. Severson, and then we can do questions maybe all at the end, if that's okay with folks?
Sure.
Great.
Thank you. So Articles 1 and 2 have been addressed in the spreadsheet walkthrough. So I'll be starting my walkthrough with Article 3, Energy Policy. I'll be grouping together sections that were contained in the same bills and related to each other, but can answer questions on individual sections as well. Section 1 and sections 8 to 14 were all included in Senator Frentz's Senate File 2393. It makes technical and conforming changes from the Department of Commerce. Section 2 and then sections 4 to 6 amend the definition of low income for the purposes of qualifying for LIHEAP, which is a federal assistance program, and makes conforming changes related to that definition. Sections 3 and 16 make corrections to drafting errors that were made last session. Section 7 is from Senator Hoffman, Senate File 1455, and amends the definition of large energy facility. Section 15 amends the definition of eligible applicant to include tribal governments, and then also includes a definition for tribal governments. And then moving on to Article 4, securitization. This article contains language from Senator Zhang's Senate File 999. This establishes a process under which a natural gas utility may issue bonds in response to an extraordinary event that impairs the utility's ability to provide service or imposes significant costs on customers and repay the bonds through natural gas rates. That's it.
Great. Well, thank you, Ms. Severson and Mr. Mueller, for walking through those. And I don't think there's anything else to add from House nonpartisan staff. I'm getting a shaking of the head from Mr. Molzon, so I think we're probably good. And would love to turn it over to members if there's any questions, comments. That would be great. Senator Matthews, go ahead.
Thank you. I believe my question would be for Mr. Mueller. Could you give me some more details about what you called the shift in the funds on the weatherization? And just explain what the shift is, where it's coming from with the shift, how all of that's working with a little more detail for me.
Great. Mr. Mueller.
Sure. Senator Matthews, it's not really a shift. The Senate has, first of all, the Senate has moved it used to be a straight up appropriation for this program, and the way the new budget rules are working now, it's just a transfer. So that's why it's in a different part of the spreadsheet. There was some one-time money that was appropriated for this back in the previous biennium, and they're still working through, I believe the Commerce is still working through some of that money. So what the bill does now is reduces the ongoing amount that was going to be 3.199 million per year. It reduces that by 2 million each year. That's how the bill gets its savings, and that's what the Senate bill was originally doing as the bill came out of the Senate, and that's what the governor's budget also was doing. So it's not really a shift or anything. It's just reducing that transfer by $2 million each year out of the general fund into the weatherization account.
Senator Matthews, did you have any follow-up?
Yeah, thank you. So appreciate that clarification. So essentially the money is just making one extra detour stop on its way to its final destination. Is that accurate?
Senator Matthews and members, I say it's actually a more direct approach. It's instead of appropriating it and then transferring it into the account, it's just a straight transfer into the account from the general fund. So just the new budget rules have a different way of getting this money out from the general fund to the proper account. And the way we're just doing it now in the bill, it's just a straight up transfer instead of an appropriation and then a transfer.
Okay.
I appreciate that clarification. Thank you for that. Senator Matthews, anything further? No. What about anybody else? Questions or comments on the final bill from the working group? I see Senator Friends has unmuted.
Yeah, I was just going to say thanks to the staff, thanks to the members for getting us to this point. I'm sure we'll have a comment or two on the floor, and appreciate getting this together. It's probably better to walk through than to not walk through. Happy to hear comments from other members or staff on any aspect of it. Work goes on. Representative Igo, thanks for pinch hitting. Good to see you, and looking forward to any comments anybody wants to throw out there.
I see Chair Swazinski unmuted too, so maybe we'll pass it to him.
Thank you. I too want to just thank staff and thank members, and appreciate Spencer for jumping in while I was out of the country. I do wish we could have really come together on finding some rate relief in this year. I'm looking forward to working on that next year. As this bill moves forward, we do appreciate the work that people did on it. So.
Senator Matthews.
Thank you. Just one final comment I wanted to make overall. I get the policy disagreements with what happened to getting an even more slimmed down bill than we had in the Senate, and we've got basically nothing of the bipartisan work that we were doing for many months so far. But I also can't leave here today without pointing out the process. We're going to have one more year under this session come next year, and we need to do this process better. Having the conference committee not even meeting once, and not having one public meeting of the working group for 3 weeks until a Sunday afternoon when it's virtual and the public can't access this. We need to do better next year, and I expect us to do better. So I want to put that on the record. I appreciate staff helping with the overtime work you have to do in getting this language together, getting ready for Monday's session. And then want to challenge all of us to try to do this in a much more transparent process next time in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And I see Representative Igo.
Thank you. And I just kind of want to dovetail off what Chair Swazinski said. Yes, I think all of us agree. We wish we could have done some rate relief with this bill that's in front of us today. But I think this bill does recognize both sides kind of coming together and really sifting out the non-controversials to be able to come together and say, okay, these are some things we can agree on to put into the bill. But I think that's going to make for a really exciting policy year next year for all of us to be able to come together and hopefully get that rate relief done. Let's take some time over the interim, get together and hammer some things out so we can have a really good bill next year in the policy year. So great opportunity to jump in and work with all you guys and pull this thing together. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Igo. Representative Kraft.
Yeah, thanks. So I appreciate that we're able to get this bill done and fund government. I think there's very different approaches to rate relief I want to name, and I also think it's pretty sad that we're not able to invest money in RDA, in development of more renewables, of geothermal, of bipartisan approaches to energy innovation in a time when, even in Minnesota, we're experiencing the increasing dramatic effects of climate if you look at the air quality we had last week. So I appreciate this bill. We're funding government, but I do too think we can do better. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Kraft. Senator Friends.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Representative Kraft. I share your concern about climate change. Obviously, I also share the concern of many of the commenters on here that we had 3 of the 4 caucuses quite ready to do RDA and talk about some of the compromises, weren't able to make them. And I hope we'll look at that over the interim and find ways to work together. The Senate Energy Omnibus came out with a 9-2 bipartisan vote. A lot of hard work by a lot of members of the Senate who thought we had real good policy in there. We got none of it. We also spent no RDA. We're collecting $250 million on community solar. That's about $300 million a year for the next 17 years, for which the people of Minnesota are getting very precious little clean energy. So I think we got a lot of work to do, and I look forward to. And as far as getting together, I'm ready to meet with any of you Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. next week, next month, next year, and anytime in between. So count me in. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. Just looking across to see if there's any other comments before I close things out. I will just say thank you to all the staff and to the members of the committees on both sides of the aisle on both bodies. This has been a challenging year, and when we have government that is as closely divided as it is, it sometimes can be challenging to come away with things that are more controversial. And so while I appreciate there are a lot of things that we can and need to be working on, I think that our direction to our caucus this year has been we need to really focus on the things that are non-controversial. And I'm so glad that we were able to get these provisions added into the agreement at the end. Thank you so much, Senator Friends, for introducing those changes. I think that makes things better, and truly, as one of the members was saying, these are all truly non-controversial and just good fixes that we can and needed and should be doing. And so I'm glad we were able to get them included into the bill. And so with that, I also want to thank staff for all your hard work all year long. We are almost there. Hopefully things go well tomorrow and we can wrap up the 2025 session. And I too look forward to the important work that we have yet to do in this biennium, and count me in as a willing and interested partner in that work. So with that, a thank you to everyone. I think that we will see each other all tomorrow morning. I think we're gaveling in at 10 a.m. So any questions between now and then, please feel free to reach out. But thank you for all your work here and look forward to seeing you soon.